Thomas Puschmann. Thomas has spent more than 3 decades at the nexus of technology and business in both academia and business, and is a founder and executive director of the Global Center for Sustainable Digital Finance at Stanford University and the University of Zurich. He serves as an advisor for many strategic national and international initiatives and is on the advisory board and a member of various institutions that foster innovation and develop an innovative and startup ecosystem. So welcome.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction and for the invitation to speak here. It's great to be back on campus here. So it's all about funding, it's about finance. And we've heard this morning and also just during lunch that finance is a real core element for scaling innovation. So in 2019 to 2020, when I came here as a visiting scholar, we were discussing, and that was just before the Door School was founded, whether this would be an important topic here. So we decided to found this new center, and we decided to found it as an initiative among the 3 universities that you can see here. Stanford, which is really famous for scaling innovations from entrepreneurship. On the other hand, Switzerland, which is famous is also a global innovation champion. It's even ranked number 1 here, but it's not so much from an entrepreneurial view, but more from a corporate view. And we've also heard this morning that the corporates are the ones that need to innovate, so in order that we can really focus on climate here. So, what is this about? Here it's about promoting sustainability in the financial system by using technology. So I will talk a little bit about some examples here. So why is the financial system important? Well, we've heard that it's approximately 5 to 6 trillion that we need that the economy really becomes sustainable. So money is really the key driver here. But why is the financial system not sustainable today? Because the motivations to really invest in sustainable businesses is really not there. And that's also what we've heard this morning. So how can this change? Well, we have some drivers here. So information technology is currently changing the whole financial sector. We have regulation, which is also an important field. However, regulation currently is, if you look at finance specifically, more in a trilemma because you have technology that also changes the game. So the whole topic of information asymmetry cannot be the same anymore. You have a couple of new data sources and things like that. So it is kind of a trilemma there, and if you look at how fintech has developed here, we are still in a very early stage, especially if you look at crypto assets, for example, or other fields where regulators haven't really caught up here. And then as a third element, we have nation states, where we also see that policy making is an important field. I don't know if you have heard about central bank digital currencies, which are an important driver. Countries like India, who have started with UPI to include people more, that they also can have access to finance. All these things are coming more from the public side. So all these 3 drivers change the financial sector to become more sustainable. However, it's also a very long-term process, and it's a very not very fast one, say it like that. So, oh, sorry. Yeah, here we go. However, the potentials are really big. So if you look in sustainable consumption, for example, what was also discussed this morning, changing behavior, it's a 47 trillion annually dollar game. So if you would be able to change that, that would be great. It's also about money. It's a 5.2 trillion game by embedding the sustainable development goals into business models. However, we have also heard that profitability and the traditional drivers of making businesses profitable are still there. 23.6 trillion annually by financial inclusion and development finance. And the biggest one is 185 trillion by embedding the SDG into the capital market. So if we would be able to do that, that would be a real game changer, that really investors invest their money in sustainable businesses. However, it turns out that if you look at the market today, only a little share is really invested sustainable. And I know that this discussion, if you look into Europe, there has been this ESG topic around for quite a while. It's very prominent there. Here it's not so prominent because people don't like to speak about it, depending also on the political field where they are in. So I think it's a big driver. And by making that more transparent, I think it would be a big game changer here. And that's where we want to focus on here in our center. And the center, and that's the role of academia, is basically a neutral, moderated platform where the universities take care that public institutions, private institutions, and also entrepreneurs come together and try to change that. For that, we have defined basically 3 instruments, which is called here the Policy Accelerator, the Ideation Labs, and the Research Platform. And I want to show a little bit or dive deeper into each of them in the next few minutes. So let's talk about the Research Platform first. If you look at what we have today, if you want to invest in a company, basically, from a financial side, you will very much see then that it's not really possible to see whether this company is sustainable or not, because there is a lack of data. So you don't have really the data to really evaluate firms on a global scale specifically to do that. And this is especially true if you look into value chains. So take the example of greenhouse gas emissions. If you have scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, it should be possible to assign that. But scope 3 emissions are the ones that are tracked downwards the whole value chain. So in most cases, 75 to 80% of those greenhouse gas emissions come from scope 3. So how can you be sure that a product that you use is really sustainable, and how that firm that sells that product is sustainable? That's really hard today because the data is not there. So we think that it makes sense to build what we call a kind of a digital twin, which is very much known also from more the physical world, where you do that in the automotive sector, for example, or in other fields, to build a counterpiece from the physical object. In that case, you can build digital counterpieces from supply chains, from value chains, and to combine that and link that with the financial data then. So what can you do with that? One thing is you can do scenario simulation, like, for example, the SDG target simulation. You can predict SDG target achievements. You can do market simulations in terms of sustainability measurements, risk simulations, things like that. What you can also do with it is what we call real-time policy making. If you had a tool available that allows you to simulate certain things that would become available not only to entrepreneurs or corporates, but would be also available to policymakers, you could also play with that and say, what is the impact if we change a certain policy or a regulation? What impact would that have then on a certain financial instrument, for example? So that is something that we believe would really help. The other thing, what is here called ideation labs, will dive deeper into 3 certain fields. One is digital inclusive finance, one is climate finance, and the third one is financial governance. So what we've seen so far is that especially incremental innovations have been very strong over the past years, especially in finance. And that was also discussed just previously. We think that we will need to focus more on radical innovations. And you remember that funding gap, right, when it comes to startups. And I believe that if we really focus on the more disruptive things, which is of course more risk and which requires other instruments of funding, then we could really make a giant leap forward here. That's why we think by focusing on these 3 fields here, by including the financial sector here, could help us in topics like investments and pensions, scope 3 emissions and value chains, green energy transition. Financing that has been really hard and remains hard. The third thing is the policy accelerator. We've seen a disconnect between the policymakers on the one hand side and the entrepreneurs that come up with new technologies. Take the recent AI boom, where Europe has been very strong in regulating, other countries still struggle. How do you go along with it? And that then links back to the research platform and the twin. I think it is important to bring together the industry, the policymakers, and the research students, but talk about the same thing. So I think these are the 3 things, and now that brings me to the Q&A session, and I thank you for your attention.